Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
It was a rainy Tuesday night when Alex picked up the closing shift at the small Burger King off the highway. The store had that eerie quiet that only came when there were no customers, just the hum of the refrigerators and the occasional hiss from the fryers. It was past 11 p.m. and he was mopping near the front counter when he noticed something strange. A man sitting alone in the far corner booth, his hood pulled low over his face. Alex swore no one had walked in, and the doors hadn't chimed. The man didn't move. He just sat there, facing the wall, his hands resting flat on the table. Alex felt a prickling unease and called out, "Hey, we're closing soon." No answer. The other two employees in the back hadn't seen him either. When Alex turned back to point him out, the booth was empty. Trying to shake it off, he finished mopping and went to lock the doors. But the glass was smeared. 2 long handprints dragged down the front window from the inside. His manager blamed it on greasy fingerprints and told him to ignore it. They locked up and started closing procedures in the kitchen. That's when Alex heard a faint scraping sound from the freezer. The metal latch rattled as if someone was inside trying to push it open. Alex froze. The freezer was locked from the outside. No one should be in there. He hesitated, then slowly unlatched it. Cold air rushed out, and for a split second, in the dim light, he saw a figure standing in the back, wearing the same dark hoodie as the man from the booth. His breath was visible in the icy air, but there was no sound, just a low, distorted wheeze. Alex stumbled back, slamming the door shut and locking it. When the manager and coworker rushed over, they opened it again, and the freezer was empty. No footprints in the frost, no sign of anyone. They laughed nervously, saying Alex was tired and imagining things. But as they left for the night, he glanced back through the restaurant's front glass. In the corner booth, under the flickering light, the man was sitting again, hood pulled low, hands flat on the table, watching him leave. If you want, I can also give you one that's based on an actual reported Burger King incident, so it feels even more chillingly real.
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 2.
It was just after midnight when Mark pulled into the nearly empty Burger King parking lot on the edge of town. He was exhausted from a late shift at work, but the glowing sign promised a quick meal before heading home. Inside, the restaurant was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that made the faint hum of the refrigerators seem deafening. There was only one employee in sight, a lanky man behind the counter who didn't greet him, just stared with an unsettling stillness. His eyes didn't blink much, and his pale skin looked almost waxy in the harsh fluorescent lights. Mark placed his order, trying to shake off the strange vibe. The employee's movements were stiff and deliberate as he rang it up, his gaze occasionally flicking to the side as if checking something or someone behind the counter. When Mark went to fill his drink, he noticed the fryer station was off, yet the man had told him his fries would be ready soon. The soda machine sputtered weakly, and he could swear the ice bin smelled faintly, metallic. As Mark waited, he glanced toward the kitchen door. It swung slightly open, revealing a dark hallway instead of the usual stainless steel workspace. Something shuffled back there, slow and uneven, followed by a low, wet sound like someone chewing with too much saliva. The door shut abruptly, and the man at the register froze for a moment before forcing a crooked smile. "Order will be right out," he said, his voice hoarse, almost strained. When the food arrived, the bag was oddly heavy and warm, too warm. The fries inside were limp and greasy, and the burger seemed wrong. The bun was damp, and the patty glistened with a strange reddish sheen that didn't look like grease. Mark's stomach turned. He decided not to eat and stood to leave, but before he reached the door, a loud crash came from the kitchen. The register man flinched, then glanced toward the back with genuine fear in his eyes. Something large scraped against the floor, accompanied by a sound that was somewhere between a growl and a gurgle. The man's voice dropped to a whisper. "You shouldn't have come this late." Mark didn't wait for an explanation. He shoved open the glass door and bolted to his car. As he pulled away, he glanced in the rearview mirror. The man was still at the counter, watching him leave, but now something else had stepped into view behind him. Something hunched, with long, wet strands of hair hanging over its face, clutching a chunk of meat in a pale, clawed hand. The lights inside flickered, and then the glass doors seemed to slam shut on their own. Mark never went back to that Burger King, and a week later, he noticed the building had been boarded up without explanation. But sometimes, late at night, when he drives past that part of town, he swears he can still see a faint glow from inside and the silhouette of someone or something waiting by the counter.
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 3.
It was just after midnight when Tyler pulled into the nearly empty Burger King parking lot, his stomach growling after a late shift. The inside looked deserted, save for a lone employee mopping near the soda machine. The fluorescent lights flickered in a way that made the place feel colder than it should. As he stepped inside, the smell of stale fryer oil hit him, mingled with something else, metallic, almost like rust. The cashier didn't greet him, just stared with bloodshot eyes and asked for his order. Tyler noticed her hands trembling slightly as she keyed it in. From behind the counter, there was a low hum of machinery, but every few seconds it was interrupted by a wet, dragging sound from the back kitchen. At first, he assumed it was someone moving a mop bucket, but it didn't have the right rhythm. It was slower, heavier. While waiting for his burger, he glanced toward the kitchen. The pass-through window was just high enough for him to see a man in the back wearing a grease-stained uniform, hunched over a cutting board. The man's movements were strange, jerky, uneven, as if his joints didn't bend quite right. Every so often he would stop, tilt his head, and stay frozen for several seconds before resuming. Tyler couldn't make out what he was cutting, but the chunks were oddly dark and glistened under the fluorescent lights. The cashier kept glancing toward the kitchen too, her face pale, her lips pressed into a thin line. When the man in back suddenly let out a low, guttural laugh, she flinched so hard she almost dropped a cup. Tyler tried to break the tension with a joke, asking, "Rough night?" She didn't answer, just slid his bag across the counter without looking at him and muttered, "Don't eat it here. Just go." Confused, Tyler stepped outside and got into his car. He peeked inside the bag. The burger looked fine at first glance, but when he lifted the top bun, his stomach turned. The patty was unevenly shaped with strange white sinews running through it. A faint metallic smell rose from it, stronger now in the confined space of his car. Before he could process it, movement in the window caught his eye. The man from the kitchen was standing perfectly still behind the glass, his head tilted at an unnatural angle, watching Tyler. His grin was wide, too wide, teeth dark and uneven. Tyler dropped the bag onto the passenger seat and started the engine. As he backed out, the man's grin widened even more, his hands slowly lifting in a stiff, almost puppet-like wave. In his rearview mirror, Tyler saw the cashier step out from behind the counter, her eyes locked on him, not with relief, but with a kind of silent warning, like she knew he had just gotten away from something he shouldn't have seen. Tyler threw the burger away 2 miles down the road, but the metallic smell lingered on his hands the rest of the night, no matter how many times he washed them. And in the days after, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching his apartment from the street below.